Welcome at Ask the Professor. I really enjoyed your attendance and also at the professional education. Really warm welcome. Normally I'm standing outside somewhere in the track, but now we have COVID, we have this pandemic problem. Still we cannot travel freely, so therefore I'm sitting and standing here at the park, so that's it. So excuses for the background. But nevertheless, we get some nice feedback from you, and let's discuss what are the questions and how you can participate to help each other. And let's go for the questions. The first question was about what can you tell more about the maintenance you could have on rolling stock when you have problems over time, and what are the problems and what is the characteristics of this kind of maintenance. You make a division, for example, what are the parts, the assets you have to maintain. For example, the rolling part, the wheel part, the bogie part. That's more or less based on the regular frequency, based on the amount of kilometers or tonnage. That's mostly planned in every 3 months, half a year, whatever. That's more or less planned maintenance, and that's just to take off the wear parts to avoid any problems in the future. But also the springs, for example, and the full set to the coach and all that kind of things. Also the electrical parts, like air conditioning. It's all, and also the lighting. That's more or less based on the frequency, just to say, okay, before that amount of hours we have to replace it, otherwise you get problems, and then the rolling stock cannot drive, and that's what we don't like. Another part is, okay, when we do this kind of process and use the cars, then you need a certain moment you like to renew. And that's another part. Then you have a project, and what can you plan in on that side? That could be, for example, new furniture or new extra plugins, for example, to load your mobile phone. And then you make a planning for, okay, after 10 or 15 years to renew and refurbish the coaches. That's another way. And the last one, that's what we don't like, but that's also what happens as just when it is part of the assets are broken down, like a spring, for example. Yeah, what can you do? Or a flat spot on your tires. Then you have to plan in as soon as possible to the workshop to fix it. So that are the most roughly the 3 ways how to maintain it. And every asset has its own characteristic, its own frequency to maintain this. And maintenance means to avoid problems and no malfunction in the process. So yeah, you have to be careful. What is the risk level you like? When do you do preventive maintenance, or just, you can also say, I don't like preventive maintenance, I wait till it will break down, but then you have a lot of failures during your operation. The choice is yours. A nice question was one of you as a student on this professional education part was, can you explain what kind of characteristics you have when you have problems like wear or defects when you use monoculture or when you have mixed traffic? And mixed traffic means you have passenger trains and freight trains. And of course there's a huge difference, because when you have freight trains, they are lower speed and higher weight. And also the condition of the wagons are not that well. So you have a totally different mechanism to wear and tear the track and also the interaction between wheel and rail. So that's totally different. And you see that also when you look in traffic management, mixed traffic, and when you look at just the monoculture, just like a stopping train from A to B. And that's exactly how you have to be flexible with your maintenance program. You have to plan in what is coming to you. When you have more freight, means that you have more worn parts. The wear of the steel parts is more severe. And then you have to do a totally different maintenance regime, because when it is worn away, you cannot glue it on. So you have to renew in an early stage, for example, the rail or the wheels. When you have monoculture, you have more stresses, and then you get more cracks, for example, in the wheel or in the rail part, in the wheel-rail interaction. And that's totally different. And then you need, for example, grinding or milling or other things. So you have totally different approaches how to handle this and how to do. And that's exactly also what you see, for example, when you have the problems on different foundations, differently results on embankments. Then you also have problems, because when you have a lot of wear on the wheel and rail side. You also have wear in your construction, in the foundations. For example, when you have a lot of rain and you have no drainage, then you also have to be aware of the climate change. When you like to change the weather, you also have to change the risk level. You have to do your maintenance. And that could be that you have to have more capacity or a higher level, or maybe you need something in the ballast to repair this huge difference when you have climate change, for example. So you have to be aware how to handle this and how to do it. Another way is, the other question was, a part of the question, when you have, for example, one-way direction, you also have a different type of wear, because when you always run from A to B on one line, you always push the plastic deformation of steel in one direction. You see that as well. So you see early stage of head checking. And that's typical when you only drive from one direction all the way, all the life cycle. When you go with a single line, you go once to the left and once you go back to the right, then you see a longer delay, you could say, of how head checking will exist or appear. And that's exactly what you have to keep in mind as well. So you need the knowledge and engineering capacity to see how this will change and how to handle it. And that's why we do this kind of exercises also online, to be aware of this. And then you can ask the experts how to handle it. Good luck. Many thanks for your questions. Please be active. Put all your questions in these Ask the Professor videos, because then you have this interaction. Also put it on the forums. When you have an idea or a case from your home country, please put that there. Have an open discussion and help each other. Because every country has its own ideas, has its own way of fixing problems. And that's interesting to learn from each other. So be active and see you next time. Thank you.